Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajaga Acharya Statira Shri His Divine Grace Aboy Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajaga Acharya Statira Shri His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai ISKCON DVT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Vamsikaho Sri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Godadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Shama Veta Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai, Thai Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Every class must begin with the word so. So, right? Isn't it? Yeah. So, What we're doing today, I've chosen this verse because this verse embodies the essence of the definition of self-care, and so we're using this class and tomorrow and the next day as part of the course on self-care. And when I first began advertising the course on self-care, some of the feedback was, why are you doing this? Because it's not in Prabhupada's books. And let's do a little math here. Bhagavatam is meant to help us develop love of Kṛṣṇa and go back to Godhead, right? Every verse, okay? And Prabhupada said, our highest interest is to love Kṛṣṇa. That's our highest self-interest, is to love Kṛṣṇa. Therefore, every verse in Bhagavatam is a verse on self-care, because every verse is helping you come closer to Kṛṣṇa, which is the highest, in your highest best interest for yourself. But this verse, particularly in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I believe perfectly defines the first two lines of this verse. We'll do the whole verse in purport, but the first two lines of this, I believe, perfectly defines what self-care is. Anukulasya sankalpa pratikulasya varjanam rakshishyati vishvasho kupritve varanam tata nikshepa karpanye nishepakar shadvidha sharanagati anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati ti vishvasho shishyati ti vishvas kuptvite varanam tata nikshepa karpanye sadvidha sharanagati anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati ti vishvasho kuptritve varanam tata atmanikshepa karpanye shadvidha sharanagati Sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam Vide varanam jata Skepa karp nikshepa Shadvidha sharanagati Anukulyasya sankalpa Patikulyasya varjanam Ashishyati ti vishvasho Kuptritve varanam yata Apanishkepa karpanye Shadvida sharanagati Anukulyasya sankalpa Pratikulyasya varjanam Rakshishyati ti vishvasho Kuptritve varanam tata Apanikshepa karp Ladies? Anukulyasya sankalpa Pratikulyasya varjanam Sishaviti vishasho Puptritve varanam yata Aniksipavatganye Agati Anukulyasya sankalpa Kulyasya varjanam Viti vishasho Guptritve varanam tata Vaniskepa Shadvidha Sharanagati. I had a realization. I memorized this verse, but I memorized it in the wrong way. So that's why I got a little messed up when I was reciting it, because I memorized it wrong. And I'm wondering if it's my brain or the old edition of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's probably my brain, anyway. It's interesting, right? Like sometimes we heard something that Prabhupada said, or we thought we did, and then we listen to the recording and we actually hear what he said and go, oh, you ever have that experience? It's kind of dangerous. Word meanings. Anukulyasya, of anything that assists devotional service to the Lord. Sankalpa, acceptance. Also, anukulya can also be translated as favorable. It's really a synonym of whatever assist devotional service. Sankalpa means accept, so whatever favorable, whatever helpful, whatever brings you closer to Kṛṣṇa, accept that. Pratikulyasya, of anything that hinders devotional service. So you have anukulyasya and pratikulyasya, favorable and unfavorable. Varjanam, reject. So accept what's favorable, prati, varjanam, reject it. Even though you like it, if it's not helping you in bhakti, reject it. Even though you don't like it, but it's helping your bhakti, accept it. Rakshishyati, he will protect. Iti, thus. Vishvashaha, strong conviction. In other words, faith that Kṛṣṇa will protect me. Goptritve, in being the guardian like the father or husband, master or all right. In being the guardian like the father or husband, master or maintainer. Varanam, acceptance. So Kṛṣṇa protects me, and he maintains. Guardian means maintainer. So two distinctions, protection and maintenance. And you could say, well, maintenance is protection. But anyway, the distinction is made here. Faith that Kṛṣṇa will protect me, and Kṛṣṇa's my guardian, he'll maintain me. Tata, as well as Atma Nikshepa, full self-surrender. Karpanye, and humility. Shat Vidha, sixfold. Sharana Agati, the process of surrender. So, before I read the translation, I think it's important to note that the word in the word for word, Sharana Agati, it's separated. Sharanagati is two words. Sharana Agati is translated as surrender, but the word Sharana also means, or generally it means shelter. So Angati means the goal. So Kṛṣṇa is my shelter. That sounds a little more warm and fuzzy than surrender, doesn't it? If you had two choices, Kṛṣṇa's my shelter or surrender, which one would you take? So is it in English, the word surrender can have a very negative connotation. But Sanskrit is actually, this is what it means to take shelter of Kṛṣṇa. But Prabhupada generally uses the word surrender. But I think we could see the word surrender and shelter, we should see as synonymous. Translation. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Kṛṣṇa will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender and humility. So why don't we repeat that? The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Kṛṣṇa will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender, and humility. Kind of gets more difficult at the end, doesn't it? Full self-surrender and humility. There was a Bengali devotee, when he heard about Lord Chaitanya, he said, "This is the most wonderful movement I ever have seen, and I want to join it." And then he read Shishastakam, the 3rd verse, Trinadapi Sunichena. You should be more humble than a blade of grass. And then he gave up hope and he said, impossible. I can't do this. Humility is impossible. Anyway, don't give up yet. There's still hope, okay? This is the purport. One who is fully surrendered is qualified with the 6 following characteristics. The devotee has to accept everything that is favorable for the rendering of transcendental loving service to the Lord. 2, he must reject everything unfavorable to the Lord's service. This is also called renunciation. 3, a devotee must be firmly convinced that Kṛṣṇa will give him protection. No one else can actually give one protection, and being firmly convinced of this is called faith. This kind of faith is different from the faith of an impersonalist who wants to merge into the Brahman effulgence in order to benefit by cessation of repeated birth and death. A devotee wants to remain always in the Lord's service. In this way, Kṛṣṇa is merciful to his devotee and gives him all protection from the dangers found on the path of devotional service. 4, the devotee should accept Kṛṣṇa as the supreme maintainer and master. He should not think that he is being protected by a demigod. He should depend only on Kṛṣṇa, considering him the only protector. The devotee must be firmly convinced that within the 3 worlds he has no protector or maintainer other than Kṛṣṇa. When I became a devotee, my mother said, "Who's going to take care of you? Your father has taken care of you your whole life." I said, "Kṛṣṇa." She didn't believe me. Kṛṣṇa took care of me, but it had some downside. So when my father wrote his will, my sister was not married, And he said, she's not married and you're not working, but somehow or other you're existing and I can't figure out how. So I'm giving her all the money. Because I guess Krishna's maintaining you, so you need any money. Anyway, that's what happened. Anyway, I'm okay. I'm still here. I have clothes and prasadam and a place to live. It all worked out. Self-surrender means remembering that one's activities and desires are not independent. The devotee is completely dependent on Krishna. And he acts and thinks as Krishna desires. And number 6, the devotee is meek and humble. So, I just want to, anyway, I'll read the rest of the purport and then I'll explain more about why I chose this verse. Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matashmitir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarva aham eva vedyo vedanta krid vedavid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Situated in everyone's heart, Krishna deals differently according to the living entity's position. The living entity's position is to be under the protection Hare Krishna. The living entity's position is to be under the protection of the illusory energy. Is that really our position? Okay, and that's another half of the second part of the sentence. Or under Krishna's personal protection. In other words, Prabhupada said, every living entity is controlled, even the pure devotees are controlled. It's just a question of which energy are you going to put yourself under that will control you. When a living entity is fully surrendered, he is under the direct protection of Krishna, and Krishna gives him all intelligence by which he can advance in spiritual realization. The non-devotee, however, being under the protection of the illusory energy, increasingly forgets his relationship with Krishna. Sometimes it is asked, how Krishna causes one to forget? Krishna personally causes his devotee to forget material activities, and through the agency of Maya, Krishna causes the non-devotee to forget his devotional service to the Lord. This is called apohana. There's a spiritual teacher, I believe he's a Christian, and his video came up yesterday on my YouTube, and he said, whatever you say to God, God says yes. So, and I put that in Krishna conscious terms. Oh Krishna, it's so difficult to surrender. Yes. Oh Krishna, I'll never become Krishna conscious. Yes. Krishna, I just can't try. I can't do austerity. Yes. So yeya tamam prapadyante, Krishna's like reciprocating with our dysfunction, basically. It's interesting, right? I cannot surrender. I will not go back to Godhead. I cannot do austerity. Yes, yes. So, I want to go back to the first 2 lines of this verse. And after spending a few yugas preparing my course on self-care, I put in a lot of time, a few days of Brahma, it seems. I realized that the first 2 lines of this verse are the perfect definition of self-care. So I'll read the first 2 principles of surrender. I mean, they all are, but I think the first 2 embody it very succinctly. One is to do whatever is favorable to devotional service, and second, to reject everything which is unfavorable. Meaning, if we put it in the context of self-care, if I actually care about myself, I will only do whatever is favorable to my advancement in spiritual life, and I will reject everything which is not favorable or harmful to my spiritual life. If I actually cared about myself at the core, if I cared about myself like I care about my children, like I care about someone I really love, I would never wish or want or arrange or do anything which would be harmful for them. I would only arrange things which would be good for them. Yes? The reality is, although we may treat other people that way, we don't always treat ourselves that way. Have you ever done something which is harmful for your spiritual life? Yes or yes? Would you ever advise someone to do something which is harmful for their spiritual life? Of course not. So, anyway, it's a whole, we can expand upon this topic of why, and we will expand about the why in the workshop we would do such things. But people ask, where is self-care in Prabhupada's books? Here you go, it's right here. Do whatever is good for you and avoid whatever is harmful for you. Simple. Yes? Now, I originally said every verse in Bhagavatam is trying to help us become Krishna conscious, so therefore every verse is self-care. Because the highest interest, our highest welfare is what? There's that verse. Does someone know that verse? Our highest welfare is service of Vishnu, or our interest in Vishnu is in our highest welfare. Our interest in becoming Krishna conscious is in our highest good. Right? So now, let's look at Prabhupada's instructions. If you analyze Prabhupada's instructions from a perspective of self-care, you can see that everything that Prabhupada is saying, including surrender and do this for Krishna, everything he's saying is for our ultimate good. That's all. He only came to bless us. Pure devotee only comes to help others. He's only thinking about our well-being. Every chastisement, every instruction, every correction is just to get us closer to Krishna, which is in our ultimate self-interest. Therefore, everything Prabhupada says is just an instruction to take care of yourself, care for yourself. And you'll notice if you listen to enough lectures of Prabhupada that there's this theme that is often sewn, you could say, stitched through Prabhupada's lectures, is that you're a human being, you have an advantage, and you can go back to Godhead, so that's what you should do, and I'm here to help you do it, and let's do it. Basically, that's so many classes. It's directly said, but if it's not directly said, it's indirectly said that everything I'm teaching you here is meant for your ultimate liberation. And what could be a higher self-interest that we could have other than going back to Krishna, ending the cycle of birth and death? What greater gift could you give yourself? What greater blessing, what greater act of love could you bestow upon yourself other than doing everything that would take you back to Godhead? You agree? And Prabhupada's just saying this is what you should do. So he's bestowing on us the greatest gift and telling us, you should do this, because if you do this, I promise you'll go back to Godhead. And then we can think, oh, if I actually care about myself, okay, then this is what I should do. That would be self-love. Now, and I have tested this out, if I use the word self-love, some devotees will throw a pie in my face because they think, that must be some Buddhist philosophy, some secular psychology, humanistic psychology. Self-love is not in Prabhupada's books. And indeed, the word self-love isn't. directly. I looked it up. Well, maybe 2 times I found it. But yeah, you ever noticed like modern terms that are used and then you go to the database and you can't find them? It's not the language Prabhupada used, but he used other language to mean the same thing, right? So Prabhupada said, many of you know, there's a letter and Prabhupada said to a devotee, the highest realization is to save conditioned souls, but higher than that is to save yourself. Now, what's so interesting, this is the backstory, which I don't know if any of you know, but I worked with this devotee that Prabhupada wrote this letter to, and this devotee was 108% concerned about saving people from Maya, spreading Krishna consciousness. It was like 24/7. It was obsessive. And he was very good at doing that while neglecting his sadhana. It was like really good at it. One of the best ever sadhana neglectors around ISKCON at the time. But fully absorbed in spreading Krishna consciousness. That's who Prabhupada wrote that letter to. Interesting, isn't it? And this devotee was preaching, the highest thing is to dedicate yourself to the Sankirtan movement. He was saying, this is in the mood of the gopis, because we're bringing people to Krishna like Radha brings others to Krishna. And Prabhupada was agreeing, yeah, that's true. It's in the mood of the gopis. And he would glorify Sankirtan in so many of his classes and inspire all of us. And he was so dedicated and surrendered, but he was neglectful to some degree of his own liberation. And it ended up that he had difficulty for a while. So Prabhupada, it's so interesting. He's saying exactly what this devotee said. Sankirtan's the highest thing, because that's what the devotee would say all the time. And Prabhupada in this letter is saying the same thing. The highest realization is to save the fallen souls. And then you think, okay, end of letter. No, not the end of letter. But the higher thing, the highest realization is to save yourself. Which is kind of obvious, isn't it? Because if you're dead, you can't really help anybody. Right? So now, we have another example, acharya. To be guru, to be teacher, you have to be an example of what you teach. And we all know example is more powerful than words. As one teacher said, I teach all day, and sometimes at the end of the day I say something. In other words, we teach by example, right? So, if I have love of Krishna, it's very easy to give it to others. Is it not? Yes. Yes? Everyone's still awake? If I have love of Krishna, is it easier to give it if I have it? Yes? Of course. Prabhupada says, if you have love of Krishna, you just have to smile and everyone gets love. Because it's just like shooting out your heart, you know. The heart has energy. I think it's electro. Does someone know? The brain has energy and the heart has energy, but the heart energy goes out farther. I think it's magnetic. And they say you can feel people like 10 feet away from, it's actually, it's physics. It's not like, mystical. No, it's actual physics. There's electrical energy, I think, is from the brain, right? Electromagnetic, or is it? And one way or the other. What is it? The brain is electrical, the heart is magnetic, yeah. So Prabhupada said, a pure devotee can make devotees just by his smile. Because he has love. And when he smiles, it's like, oh, that's what love of Krishna feels like and looks like, and we get affected by it. So now, someone may say, we don't want to be selfish. I'm just like doing sadhana and trying to advance. It's very selfish. But a devotee is never selfish. A devotee is thinking, if I advance, I can help others. So a devotee, in a sense, is very selfish. He's always taking care of himself. Why? Because he has to take care of other people. He takes care of himself. Does that make sense? And as I become weaker, in whatever way, it's going to affect my ability to administer to other people. The more I take care of myself, the better I take care of others. The better rounds I chant, the more Krishna conscious I am, the better I can administer, help other people become Krishna conscious. So I think we all know this, but I don't think we all do this all the time. But every time we skip out on doing something we should and do something we don't, obviously it's hurting ourselves, but it's also hurting others indirectly, because now we're showing up as less of a devotee. Isn't it? Like the more I can help myself, the more I can help you. The less I help myself, indirectly, it's like a kind of violence to you, because I can't show up as the best devotee I possibly could. So Prabhupada stated in another letter, I forget the details, but the letter had this phrase, save yourself first, in it. Save yourself first. So if you get nothing else out of this class and you get that, you got it. Save yourself first. Why this devotee was so dedicated and so neglectful of himself, that's a question we need to explore, and we will explore. It's a very important question, because I know I should care for myself, but sometimes I don't care to care for myself. Have you ever said, I don't care? Prabhu, you know you should do this. I don't care. And it's not only 16-year-olds that say that. Adults say it also. Adults in devotee bodies say that. Yeah, I know. I just don't care. Well, that's a problem. If you ever say, I just don't care, that's like drinking poison for your spiritual life. Don't you think? Because if you don't care, then who does? You know, even if your guru cares, even if Prabhupada cares, he can't do anything if you don't care, right? You tell your son, do this, do that, do that. He does the opposite. Crashes the car. He's in the hospital. You told him what to do. It's not your fault. You know, if he doesn't want to do it, nothing can help him. So if we say, whatever, Prabhu, you should do this. Yeah, whatever. Who can save us? What does Prahlad Maharaj say? Nobody can save you. You know that verse? Even Kṛṣṇa can't save you. Wow. Who's going to save you if you don't care about yourself? The instructions won't save you. Your friends won't save you. Even God won't save you. God can't save you. That's pretty scary. You don't want to be in a position where God can't save you. If you don't want it, even He can't do anything. He's not going to do anything. So that's something we'll explore today. It's very important. You ever have this little voice down there, or sometimes not so little? It just says, whatever, I don't care. That voice is our enemy, big time, and we need to remove that. How it got in there, I don't know. It's going to be different for all of us, but that's the enemy. I don't care about my spiritual life. Prabhu, you know you shouldn't eat this. It's going to make you fat and tired and give you cancer next week. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, that's the enemy. You know you should exercise. Yeah, I know. But you know you should get up early. Yeah, I know. But it's this voice. It's just like, I don't care. I don't care enough to overcome the inertia. That's not good. We need to care enough. And so my point is, Prabhupada wanted us to care. If you look at all his instructions within this context, you'll see he's just basically saying, care for yourself. Do this. It's good for you. You should care about this. You should want to be Krishna conscious. You should want to chant. You should want to go back to God. You agree, isn't it? Okay, now another thing which is important to say, and I think this is obvious, but somehow it like, you know those obvious things that are not obvious? Like, you know they're obvious and then they get buried? Like they're so obvious you don't notice them? You ever have that experience? Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is so obvious you could miss it. So simple you could miss it, you know. So, does what we do materially affect us spiritually? Well, everybody knows, how good are your rounds when you're tired? On a scale of 1 to 10. They're like -1, right? -108. If you're tired, it's just like, if you're sick, does that affect you? If you're not completely 100% transcendental, yes, it does affect you. It slows you down. I'm 73 now. For those of you who are not fortunate enough to be this old yet, when you get this old, some parts of your body just like, they ache. And you can stretch the ache out, but it's when you wake up in the morning, it like aches again. Something like that, right? So one of my aches sometimes aches more when I walk. Not all the time, but sometimes. If I walk a lot, it'll start to ache. And I've noticed that sometimes when I'm chanting japa, I'm not meditating on the holy name, I'm meditating on the ache. Because I'm like trying to walk and like, can I walk this way? Because it hurts this way, it hurts that way. Right? So does that ache affect my japa? Yes. Anyone else have that experience? Or you're just sitting down and your knees hurt, or your hips hurt, and you're chanting, and your mind, naturally the mind goes to the pain. So does pain in the body, does health affect us? Of course. If I neglect my health, is it going to have a negative effect on my Krishna consciousness? Until I'm completely transcendental, probably yes. Okay, here's one for Uttama and Partha. I had a realization. Maybe you had this realization 50 years ago, but I'm a slow learner, so I had this realization. As we know, when you're not nice to your partner, they're often not nice to you. Or it just degrades the marriage. So in the middle of my wife and I were teaching a course on marriage, so I was thinking a lot about marriage, but I was also thinking a lot about self-care. And then I had a little realization, and sometimes my realizations are like, you should have had that realization like the day you were married. But I just like things sometimes in the field of Grihastha life, it sometimes takes me a while to understand. And so I was thinking, if I actually care for myself, I should just do whatever would make my wife happy, even if I have to sacrifice and do 100 things to her, one thing for me, because if she's happy, I'm happy. And if I'm happy, I'm happy. That's self-care. So by taking care of my wife, I'm actually taking care of myself, because when my marriage is better, my life's better. If you have marital problems, sometimes they enter your mind during your meditation. In fact, sometimes that's all you meditate on, 24 hours, isn't it? Like you're disturbed. So we're chanting our japa. It was just like the marriage is not going well. Or it could be a relationship with another devotee. There's a problem there, I want to be right and they want to be right. And like we're banging one another's heads. We're banging our heads against one another. And I think, this devotee, he doesn't understand. Like, he's so wrong. And what's wrong with him? He's so wrong, and he doesn't understand how wrong he is. And especially, the thing that's most wrong with him is he doesn't understand how right I am. You ever been in one of those? The Battle of the Egos. It's a new reality show. Right? I think all reality shows are battle of egos. So you have this battle of egos, and it's like, I can't believe the devotee believes, women can't be gurus. Like, what planet does he live on? I can't believe that they think women can be gurus. Where do they, it's like controversy, Hare Krishna, and your mind's agitated, and you're chanting your rounds, and what are you thinking about? Which Leela are you thinking about? I'm thinking about the Leela of how stupid that devotee is, and how I can't believe he thinks that way. That's the Leela I'm thinking about. So you understand the point. I'm trying to be funny, but it's pretty serious. but you understand the point. Something material is affecting something spiritual. So self-care in the spiritual sense has to include everything: physical, mental, emotional, relational, social. Anything that goes out which could affect you spiritually is part of your self-care. So it's not just, well, I get up and do sadhana and I'm caring for myself. And there's one more thing which is really interesting. There was a teacher, not a devotee, but he knows the Vedas. He's very intelligent, and he said he has this little concept that when you neglect an aspect of your life so you could succeed in another aspect. You ever done that? It's just like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to neglect my health so I can succeed at this. I'm going to neglect my family so I can succeed at this. I'm going to neglect my service so I can do good sadhana. I'm going to neglect my sadhana so I can do good service. You know, you neglect something to be successful at something. Have you ever done that? I just have to give you a warning. All the questions I ask, if you don't know the answer is yes. That makes it easy for you, right? Have you ever done that? Yes, of course. And as I say, unless you're a demigod or an avatar, you've done it, right? Like if you're a human being in a conditioned soul in a human body, we've done it. So he made a little statement which is so good. He said, we succeed by failing. In order to succeed in this, I have to fail in this. That's a life out of balance, right? Self-care does not mean I succeed in my sadhana by failing my service, or more common, I succeed in my service by failing in my sadhana, by compromising. I succeed in my service by failing in taking care of my health or my emotional well-being, or I succeed in my service by failing in my marriage, or vice versa. I succeed in my marriage by failing in some other area of my life. So everything affects everything. So we can't just isolate self-care as, well, I'm spirit soul, so I just care for my soul. No, but everything we do is affecting everything. And so we want to be balanced. It's very, very important. I think it's one of the biggest challenges everybody has, is how to do everything that's important for us to maintain all aspects of our life in a healthy way. And it's not going to be equal. It's like we work 8 hours, we're not doing 8 hours of sadhana, so it's not balanced in this sense, visually. No, you do more service than sadhana. It's not 8 hours of sadhana, 8 hours of service. But the balance means you do enough sadhana to be Krishna conscious, to be healthy. You do enough exercise, you eat properly, you do sufficient service to be responsible for what you have to do for Krishna. Like that, you take care of everything, your relationships, your family life, your money. The funniest thing about money, have you ever just thought, money, it's just Maya, I don't want to think about it? You ever, when we were young devotees, those of you who are not from India, most of us when we were younger, because America is rich, it's like, who cares about money? Because there was so much. It was just like, our parents had it, and we never thought about it. I don't want to think about money, it's not spiritual, right? What happens if you don't think about money? You end up not having money, and then you end up thinking about money all the time because you can't figure out how to pay your bills. Yes? Isn't that funny? So you might say, thinking about money is Maya, but not thinking about it is also Maya, because you don't think about it, you don't have it, and then you're thinking about it, and you're chanting japa, praying to Krishna, give me money. I need money. Krishna's saying, yeah, I know you need money. Why don't you do something to get it? So even a little thing like that, we're neglecting a necessity If we're too detached, it comes back and haunts us. So everything ultimately seems to be coming back to our spiritual life. So if we care about our spiritual life, we have to care about other things. Does that make sense? It's a holistic process. So we have time for questions, comments, disagreements, controversial statements. Yes. We have.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your nice presentation. Harisari Prabhu once told me, for those of you who don't know the name, Harisari Prabhu was a personal servant, I believe is the title, to Srila Prabhupada for several years. And he traveled with him constantly. He was with him constantly during that time of that service. And from his first day, he kept a diary. Anyhow, he told me many years later that Srila Prabhupada spent, on average, 3¼ hours a day doing bodily maintenance activities.
Really? Wow.
3¼ which can be viewed as self-care.
Yeah, of course.
Because and I was just really shocked to hear this. And he said he spent time morning walks every day. Somebody had advised, Srila Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks when he was on the ship coming to America in 1965, and someone advised him, walk every day. So Prabhupada did that for self-care. Srila Prabhupada got massages every day, sometimes twice a day. Srila Prabhupada spent time with his personal cook to describe what I want, what I need today according to my health. Self-care. And cumulative, it added up, according to Harisari, with 3 hours and 15 minutes a day.
Wow.
You won't find that in his books either. But that's what Acharya means. He teaches by the example.
You know what I think is so interesting about this? Is like when we don't see the word self-care in his book, but it's all there, sometimes we just don't connect the dots. And then people say, where's self-care? And I say, where? It's like everywhere. No, it's not. It's nowhere. So connecting dots is part of our service. Yeah. Part of self-care is to connect the dots. Yeah. Yes. Uttama.
Sometimes it can get confusing when maybe there's something that's supposed to be done this way according to spiritual standards or this or that. And you were saying, well, I don't care, I'm going to do it another way, and then so are we benefiting. However,
it's more, I don't care, I'm not going to do it at all.
Right. Sometimes it's because we think we need a little self-care and we need to do it the other way.
Yeah, that's fine.
So is it self-care though? My experience is it in the end doesn't turn out to be self-care all the time.
Yeah.
However, you're going into it thinking.
Oh, okay, I get your point. It's self-care, yeah. You mean it's midnight and you want to do some self-care, so it's time for pizza, ice cream, and chocolate cake type thing?
Probably not that extreme. That I
so
already
you genuinely think it's self-care, but it's actually destructive. It's not, or it's not in line with our philosophy.
Well, usually you get this niggle that it's not right, but I just can't be this pukka devotee, and this works for me.
Like take one step back to take 2 steps forward, type thing.
Yeah, but my experience is those 2 steps forward don't usually come. But,
So, I can, yeah. say some more. Tell me your opinion on this a little more. Or could you give an example of what might be an example of someone just doing what they feel they need and would be self-care that is destructive? And why do you think they are doing that and not, or are they doing it knowingly? Or is it, or they actually think this is going to be helpful?
I think, well, for myself, I think I do it knowingly, but I'm just finding it too much right now. And so I would rather just take an easier way out, just because, I don't know, I want to give myself a break.
Mm-hmm. And the consequence of doing it, as you said, is not good.
Well, I find that then you get a habit. Every time that thing pops up, you think, oh, well, I don't have to do it like that. Or,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
like it becomes
Yeah,
your habit. And so it really isn't good in the end.
yeah. So then we're dealing with I don't want to do it, but it's good for me, which is what this verse is saying. You know, one of the things I think is extremely important, if not essential, for us, is to utilize the super soul, because he's there already, you know, for us, you know, and he gives us intelligence. And one of the best ways to plug into the super soul is to just ask ourselves, what's the ramification of doing this? And one thing that I like to tell devotees is that, and I think you made the point, but I'll just elaborate on it. Whatever you don't want to do today will be harder to do tomorrow, especially when you don't do it today, or do, as you're saying, do the wrong thing, because it now instills, as you said, a habit. So every day I don't do something, it's harder to do it the next day. And we tend to think the opposite. I'll do it tomorrow, it'll be easier. There's a little exercise that's amazing, and those of you who are teachers, it's really good to use this exercise. You just take people through a little meditation and have them focus on, like in this example, something you're doing, and say, what's the ramification? And you think of the ramification, and then you get into feeling. How does that make you feel? Because, of course, we don't want to feel how it makes us feel, because it makes us feel bad, and I did it to make me feel good, but it actually makes me feel guilty or ashamed or whatever. So you go into the feeling, and then you ask the question, if you do this for the next 5 years, how will you feel? And, of course, you will not feel like you're full of chit. You will feel very bad. And then you take it, how about 10 years? How about 15? And if you do it with an audience, you'll hear more sighs every time you increase 5 years. If you go from 5 to 10, you'll hear louder and more sighs. And you get to like the end of your life, it's, I can't do that. So to me, that exercise is just taking advantage of intelligence, which is discrimination, which is looking at ramifications of what I'm doing. And then putting in the context of self-care, we can ask the question, well, if I actually care for myself, would I do this? The answer would be, if the answer is no, then don't do it. If the answer is no, the ramifications are good. If they were. Maybe they are, I don't know. But it seems like you're saying they're not. And then the other thing that I think you're saying, which is really interesting, is you're saying, I want to do it because it's easier, but did you say it's like I don't feel good when I do it? Like I do it to feel good, but actually emotionally I feel bad that I did it? Is that? Yeah. So then you know, we as human beings have this crazy mechanism where, like, if we want to do something, we'll shut our emotions down because we don't want to feel bad, obviously, but we want to do it because it gives us some gratification mentally or sensually. But if we just allow ourselves to face the emotion, and that exercise is meant to do that, then it's like, okay, I'm not going to do this. It's making me feel bad.
So you're saying we need to tune into Super Soul. My experience is when I don't, it prevents me from eventually turning into Super Soul because I make a habit of not listening.
Yeah, yeah. Because why would you want to listen? Because you're going to get the answer you don't want. Right? You know about resistance, right? Like, the things we resist the most are usually the things we need to confront the most, isn't it? So that's another way of dealing with it. Okay, I'm resisting this. Ding, ding, ding. I need to face it. You know, if we have that reaction, whatever I'm resisting, that's the most important thing today to face. If we train ourselves that way, then we can work around it. Like, and why am I resisting this? Like, what's the emotion around this that I'm resisting? That's an interesting question, you know. And there could be so many answers, and it could be connected to who knows what that you start to unravel when you've faced your resistances. I've always been afraid to do this. I've always done this, and so forth. So I think this is like, we do a retreat in India, and so we have 5 days, and we do morning sessions for like, I don't know, like 4 hours. So we have like 20 hours to ask questions like, what are you resisting?